My mom and I are very different. We have different tastes and style, different personalities, but we share the same love of our homes and our gardens. As we've gotten older, I'm discovering that while my mother loves to plant more flowers, I actually like to paint more flowers. I'm going to share how I created this beautiful muted floral dresser using Debi's DIY paint and a few Iron Orchid Designs stamps. Today I went to visit my mom. You drive down this wooded, serene road lined with stately trees and lovely green, twisting and turning through the park until we reach the corner to approach my mom's house and her gardens. This is a dresser that we pulled out of storage that had some really bad veneer damage on the top. The first order of business was to remove the veneer. We soak it with wet towels overnight, and then the next day, the veneer just peels away. The base wood under the veneer is not so pretty, but it will be sanded, smooth, and then painted. It has wormholes. Wormholes are good. My mom loves flowers, every color, every variety. Flowers in hanging pots, flowers on wooden stakes, metal flowers, flowers in boxes. Today my mom said that she wasn't going to overdo it on the flowers this year. So instead, she filled a wooden bucket with faux pink geraniums that even fooled the neighbors. For my dresser, I'm picturing a faded garden of multicolored blooms, almost like a mystery. I've base coated my dresser with Farm Fresh using the paint Pixie Dusty. It's a great base coat brush, and you can find it on our website at ellenjgoods.com. As I'm base coating, I mist with water to keep this rich and thick paint moving over the surface. Debi's DIY is so thick and creamy, we can use it to hold texture or thin it down so that it creates a watercolor without losing its beautiful pigment. I use the same technique on the drawers using Summer Crush. I'm laying the foundation for my blending. But I've learned to embrace the joy that my mom has each time that she shows us around her little plot of land. She's proud of her gardens. She's eager to share a hosta or show us how beautiful the peonies are this year, and would I like a piece of this one to put in my own garden. She'll tell us how she dug up a little piece of something from someone, and now all these years later it's a full-size redbud tree or a beautiful flowering shrub. And she also loves to tell us how she just spread 5 bags of mulch at the age of 80. Even on my mother's patio, you'll find floral pillows, all different patterns. When I chose the colors for my dresser, I was thinking soft and vibrant at the same time. I wanted the excitement of my mother's gardens, but with the soft, calm colors that appeal to me. I splotched Kissing Booth here and there, and then blended with a mix of Farm Fresh and Mint Chip, using the Paint Pixie VIP, a 6-inch wide brush, and always misting with water. I blend well on my mixing surface, and then I blend it well on my painted surface, misting all along to keep that paint moving.
Again on the street. But then out of the blue, a wind starts blowing it away.
As my painting came to life, I started to add additional colors of Cowgirl Coral, Mint Chip, Aviary, Farm Fresh, and Monet's Garden. I blended in French Millenary to soften and dull the overall tone. I'm using the same brush, just wiping it off and then dipping it into the next color shades as I blended it all together. All the while that I'm blending, I am misting the surface of my painted area. This keeps the paint moving and gives me a much better blend without lifting the previous layers. Debi's DIY clay-based chalk paint will dry to a lighter tone, but when you put a finishing wax or big top over it, those beautiful, rich, deep pigments will reveal themselves once again. And then, because there is that wild side of me, I spattered some of what was left over the entire surface.
my leaves.
It's hard not to love flowers when you grow up with my mom. I learned how earthworms were really good for the soil, how to deadhead so the roses continue to bloom, how to make May baskets to deliver to the neighbors, how just a few stems of Lily of the Valley would scent an entire room. She showed how we could make little dolls from hollyhock blooms and their bud.
The next day I did the flowers. I kept it simple and soft. I did add cherry-picked, liquid sunshine, and blue iris to my palette. Then, using just a few select stamps from the Iron Orchid Designs Birds, Blossoms, and Blooms and Painterly Roses, I began to lay a random leafy green background, mist the surface with water, apply the painted stamps, and then go back with more water and a soft brush to smudge and soften the leaves. Allow them to melt into the background. I also go back with a damp paper towel to blot the edges. Then we get to have fun, stamping florals randomly. I don't overdo it, less is more. And using that same technique of misting and blending and blotting, I build layers of floral. A final spatter of a few more of my brighter colors finishes off the front of my dresser.
Wonder if my mom ever knew how much I loved visiting other neighbors' gardens as well. I was painfully shy while I was growing up, but I made friends with Beulah down the street, an older woman who showed me how the snapdragons would open and close their mouths when you pinched those blossoms. I'd sneak off to a neighbor's house where there were boxwood hedges and tall shrubs, created little rooms. It was almost like a secret garden. I fell in love with the peonies and the lilacs that were at Mrs. Anderson's house, and to this day I can't resist just burying my face into them just to take up as much of the scent as possible. Wandering through those gardens and poking around in my mom's gardens satisfied something in me that I couldn't quite identify.
To paint the top of the dresser, I used more Farm Fresh, mint chip, and a little Cowgirl coral. I did 2 layers. Again, I'm using the Paint Pixie VIP to apply and blend my paint so that I can cover more surface area. I'm continuing to mist the surface and blend on my palette before applying the paint to the dresser top. I even painted all the hardware with whatever I had left over on my brush.
At the age of 85, my mom is happiest when she's creating something. She hasn't picked up a paintbrush in years. Instead, she chooses to paint her masterpieces in her garden.
What you're trying to explain.
I prefer drifting waves of muted perennials that transition while she goes wild.
After the paint had dried for a few days, I waxed over the whole piece with Debi's DIY clear wax, using the Paint Pixie Little C. This wax is delightful. There's no odor, and it's buttery, smooth, and easy to use. I work the wax into the paint and then let it dry overnight. It may look a little bit blotchy, but it will be all better the next day. Then buff it with a soft cloth to bring up that pretty soft sheen.
Today, as I finished up my visit with my mom, and there she was, dressed in her floral muumuu, and she bent down to pick up a tile that had been broken and then glued back. Reminded me that I had given that to her many years ago, and that she still loves it most of all.
And really listening.
gardens, I found my own.
So whether you plant a garden or paint a garden, if you love wild colors or soft muted tones, you can find your garden in Debi's DIY Paint. All of the products that we used for this makeover are available at ellenjgoods.com.